Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Bishop Talk. Thank you for taking time to join us today. Bishop Talk is a series that we've been doing now for quite some time, and for the month of May, we have been focusing on Bishop Talk that focus on the subject of faith in these uncertain times. We've had several voices that have come on the show and podcast and spoken with us throughout the month of May. And give us some really wonderful insight about the importance of faith in these uncertain times. And if you'd like to view some of those additional resources or previous podcasts, we invite you to visit sunshinecathedral.org. Click on the Bishop page, and you see a whole list of topics that we have covered over the last several weeks and months. But today, we are excited and thrilled to have, for both Bishop Durrell and I, longtime friend and colleague, Reverend Elder Hector Gutierrez. Uh, and I did not ask this before the show about how we refer to him. I'm just going to say Hector. Uh,
Hector. Yeah.
Hector, and I,
But we can be more official if
we
you
can be more
prefer.
official if we need
No,
to
no,
be.
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
Hector is fine.
Okay.
And I want our viewers to know, like, we're coming to this conversation very comfortable because we have been talking already for 30 minutes. And
That's we've been doing it already. We forgot. We're
someone
so
forgot
happy
to
to
hit the
catch up.
record button, but we're already there, deep in conversation on the topic of faith in these uncertain times. And so, Reverend Elder Hector Gutierrez is a part of the Metropolitan Community Church. He serves as an elder for as a part of the representation for the denomination for the Metropolitan Community Churches, currently residing in Guadalajara, Mexico. And so, Hector, I'm going to say it's time for you to introduce yourself. Tell our viewers what you want them to know about you.
Well, I think I want to share that the most proud that I feel in my life and the call that God offered to me has been supporting the churches and to say that our presence in Cuba or in other countries is because I have been fulfilling that call and visiting and talking with the people and showing a different kind of God or divine, that welcomes everybody and celebrates what we are. And that's what kept me offering my life and my testimony to all those groups that are facing uncertain times, as is our conversation. And my passion with MCC, I have like a lot of years working with MCC, 23 years,
Wow.
23 years. Yes, and I have been in different positions, different roles, but the last one is community development team lead. That we support the churches, our leaders, lay pastors, or clergy pastors around the globe, and that is interesting because offered me a different view and how to embrace different ways to believe and how to respect different faiths, even among our churches.
Mm,
In our seminal of faith, we say that we don't believe all the same, but we can worship together. And that's important.
mm,
And that has been a passion for me. I was a Catholic priest, but only active for 8 years, and I have 23 with MCC. I'm more MCC clergy than a Catholic priest. But of course, I enjoy going time to time to mass or make a confession.
mm.
Not always do this on Zoom recording. Just if I will receive the absolution, of course I can do it. But that's part of my life.
Well, you may have to hear my confession at some point, but we'll talk about that later. Well, thank you for joining.
Until this recent administration in the U.S., I thought I was a good person, but I'm always so angry now. Maybe I'm not so good. I'm gonna need a
Well,
confession
that's
because I'm
good.
always mad right now.
You
You
and I
know,
both, Durrell, may need to go confess to Hector.
I remember once or when I used to confess when I was in the Catholic Church, and the women offered their confession. all the time they said, I'm mad with my husband because he's drunk and, he's a bad. And I used to tell them, good for you. You need to be mad.
Mm,
If not, your mental health is in jeopardy.
Right.
And I think that's good to be mad, but to do something
yeah.
to try to change that madness.
I think I'm just thinking back to when we first met. I think one of the things I appreciate about your ministry has always been from the standpoint of liberation theology. And when I think about liberation theology and all this, the folks I studied in seminary around liberation theology, I have just always had a great appreciation of the liberation theology that's come up and out of Mexico and other regions. And so, can you speak maybe for just a few minutes about the importance of liberation theology from your perspective? I mean, in the United States, we have what we view as liberation theology and lived experiences, but I think you probably represent a different take on what liberation theology looked like as someone outside of the United States and even in your own social context.
And more authentic, more organic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because yeah.
well, I had I studied in the seminary here in Guadalajara that was very conservative and still very conservative. But some of the professors, they used to let us know about the theologians in the liberation theology and offer to read those books.
Mm,
You know, you have the experience because in the seminary, some of the liberation theology were banned,
mm,
Mhm.
or you need to have it with paper cover, newspaper cover, your
mm.
book to not
Yes.
show what was. But when I had the opportunity to get my master's degree in the Pontifical University in Mexico City, was a different story because there was really open to the liberation theology, even to get the indigenous theology. I think it's something that is still needed to be more explored and shared. And even with the US, I think that can be awesome to read about the indigenous theology
Mhm.
because in the past they used to have communion, but in a different way.
Mm,
And we need to learn from them all that. And of course, the liberation theology impacts a lot of our faith in action because that's key in the Latin American faith.
mm,
Okay, some are conservative and they don't want to be activists, or they want to be only in the church, among the walls of the church, inside of the building. But most of our communities are in that experience. The base uh, ecclesial communities, I'm not sure if it's the correct translation in English, but we used to have these small communities where you can live your faith and be with your neighbor and be open to receive those that are arriving from different parts. And in Latin America, we had that experience. What I used to comment a lot is that the Latinos love the Christ on the cross.
mm, mhm.
But the liberation theology, John Sobrino or even Gustavo Gutierrez, that is not in my family, even though we share the last name. They talk a lot about the need to think in the risen Christ.
Mm,
Mm.
Why not to bring the Latin American people from the cross and to offer them the resurrection?
mm,
And that's
Mm.
what the liberation theology is trying to offer. We still a lot to do. We still in the need to share mm, more reflections about this and to really convince the people, you know, that they are called to be resurrected.
mm,
Mm.
They don't need to accept the suffering as part of your life. No, you need to live as the gospel said. You need to live and you need to have a life in abundance.
mm, mm.
So in the crucifixion, Jesus is sharing the suffering of the poor and the oppressed, but that's not the end of the story. And is that what
Well,
we're
it's not,
forgetting? That there's more to the story. That like you get past it, you
yes,
rise above it.
yes, and well, you have your PhD in theology, and you remember that how our faith born. The first was to talk about the resurrection,
Mm,
and that was the first step.
exactly.
And then the apostles start talking about what happened before the resurrection,
Mm,
the crucifixion, then
Hmm.
the different parts of the Christ active life in those 3 years. But that was a process. And I
Hmm.
think we have been inverting, shifting the way to, and for me, it's kind of repression
mm,
and control.
Mm.
If I talk about hell, you are going to hell. I remember, sorry, I will share this. When I used to go crossing, let me say it quietly, and I used to be Catholic priest. I
Yeah.
was a Catholic priest and was this adventure. And one time, and I was open. Oh, I used to say, I'm a priest. If you're okay with that, no problem. And several people, not a lot, but several people, several guys, oh, are you going to hell? Well,
Mm,
you too. Come
Right?
on, why only me?
Why just me?
Why only me? But to talk about hell or to talk about suffering, you need to accept it's the cross that you need to take. I don't buy that.
yeah.
I don't buy that.
No, that's
Jesus
abusive,
Christ
isn't it?
doesn't die because of our sins.
Mm,
He died
We
because he wanted life in abundance for us. Sorry, Durrell.
Yes, justice and goodness and harmony
Yes.
and all that. We It's abusive, isn't it? Though, like we're trying to feed hungry people. We're trying to disrupt oppressive systems. We're trying to bring people together and give them hope and you're threatening me with another life. We have a lot of work to do in this
No.
life. You don't even know what's in the next life, but you're threatening me. Let's feed some people. Let's confront some injustices. Like, I'm not even worried. I don't even know what's next. I'm not even worried about it. I'm trying to
Yes.
make a difference here.
Yes. Why to wait?
mm,
Yeah.
Why to wait? And I remember Pope Francis once said, "Here you are going to build what you will find over there with your actions here."
Hmm.
mm, mm.
Or John Paul II is not my favorite pope.
I wonder why.
But, you know, once he said, "You will not find anything over there
Mm,
if you really don't love your neighbor."
mm,
Hmm.
mm,
Eh, Were those moments of light of the Spirit
mm.
speaking through
I
him?
don't remember who it was. It may have been Hildegard. Robert and I went to the church where Hildegard's being her with her uh,
Really.
yeah the relics are, and it's a really amazing thing. And Robert never, we go to these mystical things, and Robert never experienced anything. Like I'm just like I'm floating in the air, and I'm having mystical experiences. I'm having a stigmata, and he's like, "What? I don't get it. I don't feel anything." At Hildegard's church, he got it. He just we stepped. I couldn't get him out. We were there hours. He wouldn't leave.
As soon as
And
we walked into it, I said, in my Baptist way, growing up Baptist, I feel it.
yep,
There was something in that space at Hildegard that
couldn't get him out.
Yes.
it's like it was there.
But I think she's the one. I could be wrong because I don't even know or whatever. But I think she's the one who said that in the next experience of life, what we are is in the presence and light of God.
Mm,
And if you love it, that's heaven. And if you hate it, that's hell.
mm,
And
mm.
I've
Yes.
always thought that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. And you know in liberation theology doesn't mean to create community and to
Mhm.
really enjoy because they have parties, they have food.
Mhm.
It's not a Latino party or a Latino meeting if it's not food and
Right.
music and dancing, and that's heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the first time, well, I've only been once too. I spent a couple of weeks in Bolivia, and every place we went that was social, there was cocoa tea from the plant tea and bread, loaves of like fresh bread. Sometimes some empanadas, this or that, but always bread and always tea. And yeah, like there was no social thing that didn't involve refreshment.
Mhm.
There was
Yep.
music and dancing and food.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. I
that has
was
to be heaven.
amazed. I was amazed to know that the Pope Francis loved to dance tango.
Yeah.
Really? And when tango was banned in the beginning, the
Really?
Catholic Church prohibited the
Because it's
tango.
so sensual.
So sensual.
Oh.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
so
but
while we're on the topic of popes, uh, I'm just going to assume that the world over loved Pope Francis. His impact on the globe as a whole was felt by many Catholics, I think, as well as non-Catholics. And
I think maybe the most prophetic since John the 23rd.
yeah, yeah. So from your location, we have now gone from Pope Francis to Pope Leo. Uh, what is your I'm going to ask you to sit around the crystal ball, if you will. I mean, we've all experienced. I mean, I think I wrote recently that Pope, with the transition of Pope, I think this is the fourth or fifth Pope I've lived through. It's either I think it's the fifth.
Paul, JP1, JP2,
all the
Benedict,
six
Francis, and this guy. Six.
So
Six we've had.
this is my sixth Pope. What would you say would be your hope for Pope Leo in respect to the LGBTQ community? I'm going to say worldwide, not just the Catholic Church, but worldwide. What would be your hope for him?
Now he'll never do what MCC does.
No, he'll never
But
do it. He'll never
no,
do it.
no,
Not as
no.
well as we
but he
do.
could do but he could do better than before.
But he is a voice with a platform and a loud speakerphone. But what would be your hope, your aspiration?
It's so hard. Did you are aware that last week on Saturday,
Yeah,
not this last Saturday,
yeah,
the Saturday before,
yeah,
he said that the marriage is only between a man and a woman.
They
yeah,
always say that.
yeah. Party
Yes, and
party line.
Yeah.
yes, uh,
Says the
uh,
celibate guy always, but okay.
well, it's so hard. I think we need to give some time and at least to respect
Mm,
and just to say, like Francis, no, who am I to send these people to hell or
mm,
to judge them or to condemn them?
hmm.
Right.
Just to accept if they are not going to celebrate who we are, just respect. And we don't need the respect.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of other welcoming and opening spaces outside of the Catholic Church, if you will, that are like places like Metropolitan Community Churches, lots of them that are open and affirming that
Independent Catholics,
yeah, that we
yeah, liberal Protestants, more and more.
yeah, that we can find a welcoming space. And I know Catholicism is important to a lot of people if that's your background, how you were raised. And yet, I think we're in this moment because of what's going on globally, not just from the Vatican, but also from the White House, also from other presidential places around the globe. We are at a unique moment in time that I think that our faith is probably more important than what we know. And I think a lot of people have given lip service to what their faith is versus what it really means, versus how we exhibit and act upon that faith. And so I'm just curious as we look at faith, faith in politics, faith in church. What is your kind of take on the importance of faith today as
Well, I
people?
think it's the importance of the faith is faith in action. we don't need to be naive
Mm,
in thinking that only having a cross in my chest, I'm Christian or a believer. I think it's important to take our faith to the streets,
mm,
to the protests, to the universities, as Harvard right now.
yeah.
That's important to take the faith to those places. You don't need to say, I am a believer. I am a believer. You need to show
Mm,
with your actions, with your commitment, that a better world is possible.
mm,
And make small changes. It's not in our hands, the big changes,
mm,
but making small changes is going to impact in some moment. It's like that phrase, if you plant a tree, you will not enjoy the shadow
mm,
in the future, but you are making a better place for many people that will sit under that shadow
mm.
and receive the breeze.
Yeah, I like I just kind of felt something when you said about when I'm going to interpret it as we need to be outward witnesses
Yep.
of the faith, of the things that we believe in and the things that we're convicted to and convicted by when it comes to justice. Uh,
Yes.
we were talking with someone earlier, and they spoke about justice love. And I think that when we think about justice and love, you really can't have one without the other. And maybe this is now the call of faith leaders to step out. We have to step out, not just to lead, but to be the example of what it looks like of Christ in action.
Yep. Yes. That's the call. You know, it's not the time to keep ourselves in the buildings or on the buildings or inside in the offices.
Mm,
We need to go to the march to be with those because God is or the divine is telling us, I'm with you. In the Argentine time, it's like in at least in Latin America, we have that experience. It's Christ with us.
mm,
It's not that the resurrected is in heaven. No, he is with us, walking, fighting, and crying in some moments with us.
mm,
Hmm.
mm.
And it's
Who is
important.
your who is your favorite theologian? If it's not a liberation theologian, who is it? And if it is, like, is it Sobrino? Is it Gutierrez? Is it Oscar
Oh,
Romero? Who is your
it's
favorite theologian?
Skillebex.
Wow, I was not ready for that. All right, all right.
Skillebex or Karl Rahner.
Mm.
And don't say it out loud, but uh, Benedict, when he was a theologian, he was a great theologian. And you need to read maybe the introduction to the faith or to the Christianity. He says in that book, Jesus could born for a regular couple
Mm.
with the intervention of
Now,
man
yeah,
in the process.
Mm.
yeah. You could you could sweep me up in a dustpan just now. Oh my goodness, I was not
And
ready for
no
Shilbex
one,
Uh,
no one
and
says
Benedict.
that. No one
wow.
says that. No, and
He was so dogmatic and so academic. Like I never think of him
yes,
as sort of accessible,
Mm.
but he was brilliant. Surely, yeah.
and yes. Did you did you see the movie The Two Popes?
Yes, Robert has seen
Yes.
like four times.
Yeah. More like
It really
15.
humanized him. It really made him
Yeah.
seem, like a person. You don't think of big
Yes.
important people as people, but they really humanized him.
Yes, and those are my biggest theologians. Of course, in Latin America, both Leonardo
Mm.
Leonardo Wolf, Gustavo Gutierrez, and and it's not a theologian but a philosopher from Argentina that all his life had been living in Mexico. And right now, his name. He talks about liberation philosophy
Mm.
Mm.
because we need to
Uh,
have the base of the theology.
yeah.
Mm.
Marcella, Ada
Oh,
Maria. Yeah.
Marcela,
Mm.
also free. Yep.
Mm.
Yes, but Skilevex is like my
That's the one.
favorite one. Yes.
Wow.
He was so when he wrote his book that calls Jesus, the history of our living.
Mm.
I'm not sure if it's that the translation into English, but it's Jesus, the name of the book. The Vatican called him to ask, "What's your idea to write the fifth gospel?" And he said, "No." And he said the phrase in Latin that was telling each of one is called to respond God's call,
Mm.
and you will create your own gospel
Mm.
because it's from your story. You know, our gospel, or at least my gospel. I know that you are not gays, but
Mm.
my gospel is a queer one.
Mm.
It's a
Exactly.
queer gospel. And if I write a book, that needs to be a queer gospel.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, for it to be my gospel, I have to see myself in it.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. You've got some people on the ground doing amazing things. Elena in
Like,
Cuba is amazing. She's an elder now, and just a beautiful person. The You have a pastor in Brazil who is she's amazing, especially right now. We need trans voices and trans representation, and she is just out there doing it. And so, what are some more things going on in Latin America that you want everybody to know about?
well, in the machismo that we face in Latin America, now the women are taking more leadership, and that's awesome. They are asking to be more in formation, and we need theologians,
Mhm.
women theologians in Latin America. We have some, but we need to have more lesbians that can are willing. You know, we have Ana Esther in Brazil,
Mm.
but more women and more lesbians that are willing to write theology. That's important
Mm.
because they have a very different vision.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We say in Spanish, I'm always show the cross of my parish. You know, I
Mm.
always show my roots, my background as a man. Even being gay, well, is a very different mindset, and women had a very different way to view what faith means.
Mm.
And it's interesting because in the gospel and even in the Old Testament, we find some moments when they refer to God in a feminine way. You know, I want to be the
Absolutely.
hand taking
Hmm.
the leader once close to me, or I want to have you in my womb.
Right.
And it's not
Or
very masculine that.
right.
And we need to
Those
recover that.
nursing images. I
Yes,
love that in a lot of ancient art, Renaissance art, even before, every time you see a painting of Pentecost, there's Mary in the middle. Like she, in that brief time, is like the interim pastor of the whole Christian church, really. And Protestants don't hear about that, but she was actually in Jerusalem, and those days after, she was in charge.
Yep.
Nobody says that.
Nope. And Mary Magdalene, she was the apostle of the apostles.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And we forgot that, and we don't want to mention that.
Mm.
Right.
Yes, it's something that we need to recover.
Yeah.
Mm.
And let me share, I was teaching theology once in a university here in Guadalajara, and I had this group of nuns, like 25 nuns, and I will teach them Mariology.
Mm.
It was interesting because in the first class, I promised myself that was not one of the topics that I want to teach
Mm.
because of the dogmas, and
Yeah.
it's so hard. And the Catholic Church is really strict in that. And if you think, say something, or to talk against, you are excommunicated from
Mm.
the Catholic Church. Talking
Hmm.
about the dogmas. And when I teach Mariology, I told the nuns, okay, if you are willing to open your minds and to have a different vision and understanding of Mary in the salvation role in history, you are welcome.
Mm.
If you want to pray and to say always the same, we will approach to Mary from the liberation theology, and you will
Mm.
understand the four main dogmas in a very different way. And they were so excited. That was we were looking for.
Nice.
Yes, I
Brilliant.
think we need to. It's not the time to be shy.
Mhm.
Mm. Right.
And with all that we are facing, not only in the U.S., but this crisis is not the time to be shy with our faith.
Mm. Mm.
It's good. It's good.
That's good business. I mean, I think that's almost like a call to action for so
For
many
sure.
spiritual religious leaders. We can't be shy about our faith. This is the moment in
No.
time. If none other than ever before, we need to step up and step out because I think, when I think about it, there are people who are literally hurting on so many levels, and they are looking for that one person to offer hope, to offer understanding, to offer something that gives them a glimpse of hope that this will get better. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think that's what, when I think of Latin America, when I think of, everything is going liberation theology, and just as a side note, when I first got to seminary and heard of Gutierrez, I actually thought you guys were related, first of all. So said, "Oh, I know Hector." Yeah, but it's like, but just from a whole liberation standpoint, when I line up liberation theology in alignment with the civil rights movement, in alignment with the LGBTQ movement, locally as well as globally, these things are in alignment with what it means to talk about what it means to be liberated. And this is what liberation theology looks like. And it is just, as simple as you said, this is a time when we got to step up and step out and be seen because we're representing not just this, but also a light for people who need that light right now.
Yes, and to really trust, because faith is that to trust that God is with us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And and it's not the time to, as we were talking, to be concerned. What about our 501c3? Or
Yeah,
what about our donors?
yeah.
Because then we need to read the Revelation book and to understand what was the meaning of that book.
Mm,
It was
Yes.
uncertain time, and they were fighting with a
Hmm.
smart way, with the
Yes.
book, with reflections, but showing that it's possible to go over this. And the sun is coming again
mm,
in the
Yes.
morning.
Yes. We were telling Carter Hayward recently. We were talking with her, and we told her about these people who are always saying, you should have your 501c3 revoked. You should have your tax. Do it. Okay. Like that's not really a threat to us. Well, we ministry is just one expense after another anyway. Okay, that's just one more expense we'll have to figure out. Like we're not going to stop doing what we do though. And P.S. We do pay taxes. I don't know why people think churches don't pay taxes,
Yeah,
but we have some breaks because of our volunteer pool and because of our social services. Now, if our government wants to actually do all those, which they should be doing anyway, fine, taxes, 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 and take care of people. But until then, what they do is they give us a little tax break because of all the people we take care of. But take it away. We're not gonna. That's not gonna shut us up. You know what I mean? Like that's not. And donors can go away, or the economy can fall. We're just gonna have to figure out a way to do it because the message. I mean, Troy Perry used to always say, keep the main thing the main thing. We're not. We're not gonna sell out just because things get difficult. We should
yeah,
not.
yes. And Reverend Troy, that phrase that I love, some of our prayers need our feet.
Mm.
Yes.
Hmm.
And this is the time to remember that.
Yes. Wow.
Pope
It's
Francis
not
used to
to
say,
wait not to wait the answer from heaven.
Right.
We need
right.
to create
Exactly.
that
We're the
answer.
answer. We're the answer.
Yes,
The Pope Francis used to say, you pray for the poor, you pray for the hungry, and then you feed them. That's how prayer works. Yeah.
yes. Well, yeah, it's so interesting the time that we are facing and living because it's when really our faith is going to have the opportunity to be shown
Mm.
and to really understand who are the real Christians
Hmm.
and those that are fake.
Right.
Yeah. We grew up in the U.S. hearing about Mussolini, Hitler, Generalissimo Franco in Spain, Baby Doc in Haiti. Like all these, like it was always the other somewhere else. The bad guys, the scary guys, always somewhere else. And all the things that they told us were terrible about them, we're actually seeing now in the U.S. And that's a very strange feeling. We were supposed to be the answer to that, and we are no more immune to it than anyone else. And yet, because of our own inbred nationalism, a lot of us can't see it. And that makes it very difficult, very scary right now.
Yes. And it's this musician from Cuba, Silvio Rodriguez. I'm not sure if you know about him. He has a lot of songs, Silvio Rodriguez. And one of his songs is talking about September 11th.
Mm.
And he said, well, Americans need to understand that it's not only their September 11th, because they have other September 11th in different countries, like in Chile, the
Mm,
US supported against the president and to imposing a dictator
Mm. Hmm.
right,
in Chile, Pinochet,
Mm.
right.
and was in September 11th
Oh,
when they
wow.
killed Allende.
Mm.
Yes, and always the liberation theology had been fighting with this, with pamphlets, with writings, with reflections in houses,
Hmm.
sometimes hiding the message, but always trying to make a change.
Mm.
And we
Yes.
have been doing that in Latin America for years.
Yeah.
And it's so surreal what we are seeing in the US
Mhm.
because we never thought that that would happen.
This whole notion, I don't remember when it was now, but this whole concept of building a wall uh, between us and and Mexico, it's like I never understood why. Just like no. But it was for me, it was like it was meant to represent a threat that
It
didn't
was
exist.
symbolic. It was an insult. And yeah, and it was symbolic.
But we will pay for that wallet.
Right.
They
Was
never
that the
charged me.
ridiculous? Right. You didn't get an invoice, did you? Yeah. But yeah, no, it's even still, he's still saying that everything that's wrong in the U.S. is because we had open borders. We've never had what's it? I don't even know what an open border is. No country in the world has an open border, but he says that all the time.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just maddening. It's maddening because he never says anything that's true.
maybe you need to travel to Chiapas
Mm,
It's a border with Guatemala.
mm.
It is so interesting because you see just one cable. This is Mexico, that's Guatemala.
Ah.
And you can walk to Guatemala
There you go.
and no one is checking your passport or anything.
Yeah.
There is a wall in Israel separating the
Oh, in Israel,
Palestinian
yeah.
part, and it's ugly, it's horrible. Uh, it's difficult to cross. Like if you want to go to Bethlehem, it's a big deal, and that wall is ugly and oppressive. And no, we shouldn't want walls.
Yeah.
It's not right.
Nope,
Yeah.
nope.
Well, and I think that's an aspect of liberation theology. It helps us it gives us the tools to tear down those walls. And it's been there all along. And I think that's one of those moments we need to remind ourselves the tools are there. We just have to be the feet for the tools to implement this and not let what we're seeing right now happen around us be the final word about how politics or how religion or how things need to be in our society and even how we respond in human care, just caring for each other. That doesn't set the tone for that. But I think an aspect of liberation theology reminds us that this is our calling and we are called to, as you said earlier, we have to be out there. We have to be on the front line. And then, Oscar Romero and some others becomes about. It's like we got to be out there. We got to be in the trenches. So the church walls won't protect us from what we're up against right now.
No. And it's with like Oscar Romero. Okay, they can heal this body, but it's going to be a seed that will blossom
Yeah,
in the
Right.
right moment.
yeah,
And we're what are we? 3 days from Ascension.
Yes.
That's a good message.
Yeah, and that's a good message because the angel say, "What are you here looking
hey,
to the sky? Go, work,
Mm,
fight,
yes.
protest,
mm,
and be with those that are suffering."
yeah,
Yeah.
Because right
Solidarity.
now, yes,
That's what we forget, and what's so needed. Solidarity, not even so much charity or solidarity.
yeah,
and to understand that the neighbor is important, you
mm,
need to welcome the neighbor.
yes,
And Sodom and Gomorrah, I don't know how do you say.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, but the the problem with them was the lack of solidarity
mm,
Yes.
mhm,
and the opportunity to welcome the stranger.
mm,
That was their sin,
mm,
Yes.
not what they tried to sell.
right.
MAGA are the sodomites.
Oh, yep. Yes,
Yes. Yes.
yes.
Well, I think we've pushed our time limit, and Hector, I want to thank you for
Yes.
taking the time to be
It's
with
been
us.
so good.
It's been
Thank you, Reverend
really
Thank you so
Elder.
great.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And to all our viewers, thank you for being with us today to watch this. It's a reminder if you want to find more on these topics that we've been discussing in the month of May, the importance of faith in these uncertain times. Just visit sunshinecathedral.org, click on the bishop page, you'll see all that I'm listed there. But for Reverend Elder Hector Gutierrez, I'm going to allow you the last word. And that last word can be in the form of a thought or a blessing or whatever you want us to hear from you as we wrap up this episode.
Well, just remembering one song from the Liberation Theology. There is going to come the day that we will turn our eyes and to see the land of peace,
Mm,
freedom, and justice for all. And we need to create that
mm,
with our testimonies, with our faith, with our commitment, and with our queerness
mm.
too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us, Reverend
Thank
Hector
you.
Gutierrez. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. And I will look forward to seeing you again in the near future. Take care, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.